Let's be honest, All-Star games suck. They're boring, they're not entertaining, but why do all All-Star games suck? Hi, hello, and welcome to Matt Slam Sports, and today I'm talking about All-Star games. Specifically, I'm going to focus on the big three: basketball, baseball, and football. And then I'm going to talk about hockey as well, because I think it's a good example of why and how they cannot suck. So, I'm going to get started with basketball. So, basketball, All-Star games used to be very competitive. At least I'm told. I wasn't alive. I'm 18. But basically, I'm told that they were taken very seriously and that games and players tried their hearts out. I mean, if you look at the MJ highlights from the All-Star game, he is really dunking on people. He's really going out of his way to make a highlight tape. He wants to show that he's the best in the league. And it's not just MJ. Every player on that court wants to make a name for themselves against the greatest competition in the world. So then what happened? Well, this happened.
Two-time MVP winner of this All-Star game.
Wow. Oh, hard foul on Bryant by Wade. First flagrant foul.
Well,
now it may look just like a soft foul, but what actually happened was Kobe Bryant fractured his nose. This was framed as the Kobe mentality. Oh my god, he's going all out in the All-Star game. Look at him go. Which, yeah, I can understand, but it's very clear that after this, NBA players stopped trying. Kobe Bryant put his heart out onto the court, and what did he get for it? A mask for the rest of the season. And there was a clear shift in NBA players stopping to try. Not to mention, after this, there was a lot of lopsidedness in the West versus East because the West was just stacked at the time. There was a lot more people, and we also had the death of rivalries. People stopped hating each other in the NBA as much as they did, like, the Bad Boy Pistons and the Chicago Bulls and this huge rivalry that they have going on, you know? That just doesn't exist anymore. And when you add that on top of the West being so much better and the people being like, I don't want to break my nose for a game that doesn't count, well, go figure they're going to stop trying in the NBA. They also tried out the team captain format, but it didn't work out because I think it was pretty funny how LeBron chose not to choose KD after like 10 rounds, but that's the only bit of enjoyment I got from that format. The NFL also switched to flag football in 2022 because of the injuries, and it's boring. I'm trying to be a fan, it's so boring I can't. And it's not looking great from a France perspective either. So, let's just get this out of the way. A lot of criticisms with the All-Star game have people saying, why don't they just switch to the baseball format? Well, we need to talk about how injuries work in each sport and how they are fundamentally different. You see, in baseball, the majority of injuries come from strains, especially with pitchers. Strains in the legs, strains in the arms, stuff like that. That's from constant use. Now look at an NFL injury. Since 2015, the main injury has been concussions. Even though it's reached a 10-year low point, it is still incredibly high. So why do I bring this up? Because the way you get a concussion is by a sudden, blunt hit trauma, which is something that happens every single football game. Now look at the NBA injuries. The most common NBA injuries come from awkward movements and non-contact injuries. So why do I bring this up? Because the injury risk is a lot rarer in an MLB All-Star game because they all get rest. A week before the All-Star game, you're all sitting on the bench, you're all having fun, and a week after, you're sitting on the bench, you're having fun. In the MLB, injuries come from constant strain on a muscle. Now you go to the NBA or the NFL, and in a sudden moment, your leg can just the wrong way, and then you're out for the season. The NFL, you can just hit your head and you're out for 2 to 3 weeks. And you got some TTE that the NFL is trying to cover up, but we're not going to get into that. We talking about the All-Star games right now. And a lot of people also mentioned that why don't they do what the MLB does in the sense that the winner gets to go home and have their home format. Well, it's not as simple as you might think, because first off, in the NFL, they always play on a neutral site. So all of a sudden being whoever wins the All-Star game gets a home advantage is a huge, huge advantage in the Super Bowl that isn't fair. And then in the NBA, why don't they have that format? I personally think it has entirely to do with trying to make this system uphold of the standings. Because this system of standings is completely different than anything else we've seen across other leagues. And the reason that is because it's just the NBA East and the NBA West. And then they just take the best team off of that. Now, if you say the All-Star game suddenly matters, then what is the point of being the best team when you can get a lower rank, a 2 or a 3 seed, play worse teams, and then, sneak your way into the finals? I think that's my conspiracy on it. I'm not Adam Silver. I might just be yapping. But another thing that needs to get fixed is the NFL Skills Challenge. Why is it on a Thursday? I have class! I am not free on a Thursday in February. And 1.6 million average viewers is there for the game. Now listen, that's a lot of people. But the average NFL game gets 18. Any team playing gets 18 million viewers. So, obviously that's a lot lower. And then if you look at the Pro Bowl game, it had 4.7 million viewers. Now it's on a Sunday, which is prime time, but it's still 10 million less than normal, and it should have a high viewer count just because of the fact that it has all your favorite stars from your favorite teams. I did not watch the Pro Bowl. The only reason I ever cared was for this video. That's why I even watched the highlights. And I probably won't watch the NBA All-Star game ever again. Why? Because it's boring. And then the dunk contest, I was watching for Madas Bazelis, but not too much. So, the difference between the NFL and the NBA, however, is that the NBA got the skills challenge right. A couple years ago at this point, Steph Curry 1v1 Sabrina Ionescu for like the 3-point contest. It had 5.4 million viewers, which is more than the entire NFL Pro Bowl Day combined with the Thursday skills game. Now, 11.6 million people watched the game afterwards, even though it was not that interesting, because of the hype built up from how big that was. And the clips went all over Twitter. It was a big thing. This is how you gain viewership, by hyping up the whole weekend and not just a game or one event or one person. Now, I want to talk about the MLB Derby because this is a massive success. The MLB Derby averaged 5.4 million viewers during the Republican convention. That is the core base of MLB fans. And they still got 5.4 million because on a regular year, 7.4 million people are watching. And the All-Star game this year had 7.4 million people, which is less viewership than the other two mentioned. But this is also in the middle of the Republican convention, which is like a baseball person's dream. So, what's the solution? For the NBA, it's just to take pride back in the game. You gotta make it about a chance to prove yourself as a big deal. And I think that starts with sports media. Now, there have been a lot of complaints about sports media in the NBA, specifically how it's all about clicks and it's not about good takes or uplifting the game. I think that the Curry versus Caitlyn proved that if we make pride attached to it and we give people a reason to care and the players a reason to care besides just money, they're going to show out. And that's how you get them to try again. For the NFL, these players and the media need to take the flag football game seriously. They need to push for it to become an Olympic sport so that the best athletes in the world try it that aren't football players, right? How cool would it be to see IShowSpeed face off against, I don't know, Noah Lyles in the middle of a flag football game? I think that'd be pretty sick. Because right now, this flag football game is not cutting. Another solution I have is that the NFL needs to uplift individual players to stardom instead of overall teams. When people say I'm a Bears fan, they mean they love the Bears. They don't care who's quarterback. People don't say I'm a Caleb Williams fan like they do in the NBA, where it's like I'm a Jokic fan, but I don't like the Nuggets. So you need to make those people into stardom. And for the MLB, I don't know, maybe make Trump throw the opening pitch, you know? You could have J. Cole play in the middle of the game. Really, you guys really just got a bad year. Now, I wanted to bring up one more thing about these solutions. There is one sport that did the solution to a T and it benefited because of it. And that is hockey. Hockey had this new thing going this year where they had 4 international teams, US, Canada, 2 others that I forgot, and they all played off and faced off in a tournament, and it was a huge success. Ratings were through the roof. So why is it a success? Because 1, the individual players highlighted, right? You had the US stars acting like US stars, saying I represent my country. And that ties into my next point, which is pride. There was pride on the line. You were playing for your country. You're not trying to win to get some clips on Twitter. You're playing to prove that USA is the best and goddamn it we were this year. So I think that's just a perfect example of how you get these things to be more interesting. But that's all I got, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.